Hello, everybody. My name is Paul Quinney, and this is the Flames Faceoff brought to you by the Hockey Writers. Now, we're a weekly show where we bring together some of our best writers in the Calgary Flames writing pool, and we discuss all things Flames. Now, to make sure you don't miss an episode, you can subscribe to this YouTube channel. You can follow us on Twitter and Facebook. And I promised myself I wouldn't shamelessly beg today, but I'm going to give us a like on Facebook or YouTube if you like what you see, and don't be afraid to share this program with your fellow Calgary Flames fans. And we're also available now on podcast. I think the easiest thing to do is just go to the Hockey Writers podcast network and download us on iHeartRadio, but any platform, your favorite, will work as well. And do be sure to check out some of the great hockey content that we have here at thehockeywriters.com. So with that, let's get going. I'd like to introduce the panel. We have with us Mr. Brett Krauss. Brett, how are you doing?
Doing well today, and lots to talk about. Big news cycle here for the Flames.
Yeah, and I would be remiss if I didn't take notice of that brand new Calgary Flames hat. You're good to see.
It's I've actually had this for a while. I just forgot I had it, and I thought, why haven't I been wearing this? For the fans who watch the YouTube version.
Well, you are stylish when it comes to headwear, and versatile as well. The last hat I think you had on was a Team Portugal hat or something.
Oh yeah, I've got a few in rotation. That's for sure.
Yeah. And last but not least, Mr. Greg Tysowski. Greg, welcome. How are you doing?
Good. I did something last night. I haven't done in a long time. Gone to a professional sporting event with actual people. I was at the McMahon Stadium to watch the Calgary Stampeders lose to the Argonauts. I couldn't believe that happened. But it was good to see live professional sports again, which kind of makes me think that it'll be fun to see the Flames in action come this fall, because we're Alberta's open for business, for better or for worse. We're wide open now. So
out of curiosity, did they have restrictions on the number of fans in the stadium, or?
No, there wasn't. Well, there was only about 23,000 people in a 35,000 seat stadium. So I guess it was by virtue of not many people showing up. There was some, but there was nothing really in place. That was it was all systems go, except the sidelines were a bit bare. There was no cheerleaders in the sidelines. There was no mascots. It was just there were still people wearing masks, like coaching staff and security and vendors and stuff. But other than that, it was pretty much business as usual. So.
What about the horse running up and down the sidelines?
The horse was still there, and the horse was no mask. It was maskless. So It was good to see.
There are some traditions you just cannot fail to observe, and that's one of them, I guess.
That's right.
But, so let's get right into all the news we have to discuss. There were some big moves at free agency on July 28th, and I thought we could spend most of the show just talking about what we thought of those moves and will they make a difference, and have they done enough? And probably the biggest move so far was the acquisition of Blake Coleman from the Tampa Bay Lightning, and he, in my estimation, was a much needed center or winger, left-handed shot, Stanley Cup champion with Tampa Bay. Certainly, I think he could be a top six forward. Others say maybe a middle, but in any case, he's up there. The Flames signed him to a 6-year deal. They went long on that one for almost $30 million. What are your thoughts on the acquisition, Brett, at a high level? Has it changed anything?
I like it personally. I think although it takes him to his age 35 season, which could, not be great near the end, but I think in the first 3 years of this contract, this is a great move for the Flames. I was kind of shocked that Calgary was the team that he picked, but after kind of hearing some interviews with him, and he's originally from Texas, so it kind of funny how he ends up in the Texas of the North, as they call Alberta. So no, I like it. I think he might not have been a top six on Tampa Bay, but he for sure is on the Calgary Flames. So I think this is a great move for the team, and $4.9 million isn't too much to swallow. So I think him and Andrew Mangiapane on a line could be really deadly, I think. So I think this was a move in the right direction if they're, going for it, which is the reason why Daryl Sutter's here. So I think that's kind of the plan right now, is to go for it.
Yep. Greg, your thoughts? Is that what this means, the Coleman acquisition, that Calgary thinks their time is now?
Exactly, because this every year we think that maybe the Flames will do something to really blow things up, and then they don't, and they kind of do these tinkering moves. And I would add this to like the tinkering mode, because they're not, the retooling, they're not rebuilding here. So, and I like the move. He's kind of a Daryl Sutter type of player, as they say. Like he's a hard worker. He's a gritty guy, two-way forward. He plays responsible, in his end, and also he's one thing I think people have to temper optimism a little bit, because he's a 20 goal scorer. This is not a 30 goal scorer. This is not a 40 goal scorer, and it's possible maybe he'll find a added scoring touch in Calgary, playing in more top 6 minutes, which he will be. And so I think it is a good move. Like it maybe isn't the big splash that a lot of people were hoping for, that in the Jack Eichel sweepstakes and everything, but this tells me that Daryl Sutter is in win now mode, and he wants to add to this core group and not tear everything down and start from scratch. So yeah, it's a good move. And I was also a bit surprised, if he had his pick of almost any team in the league, and I find that Canadian teams are, especially like the smaller market ones, it's harder and harder to sign the big guys and sign some of these big free agents, but he chose Calgary. So I think I'm looking forward to his presence in the top 6, and I have a good feeling that maybe him and Andrew Mangiapane will be a good combo, as whoever's going to center that second line.
Right. I don't think that's I hope it's not the end of the moves. Although the number of available free agents it's getting pretty thin now, but I guess the second biggest move would be Trevor Lewis. They signed him to a 1-year deal, $800,000, just above the minimum. Centerman, good fit with Sutter because he's won 2 cups with Sutter. Any thoughts on Trevor Lewis coming out of Winnipeg, or
who do you want to go ahead?
Brett, take a stab at that. Sorry about that, guys.
Yeah, I'm kind of indifferent on that one. I feel like that was one that Sutter may have phoned in from the tractor to Brad Treliving and said, should get this guy. I would have preferred, seeing what Derek Ryan went for in Edmonton, I would have preferred to bring him back. But he's going to be a fourth liner. It's a cheap option. And so it's don't hate it, but don't love it.
Yeah. Well, looking at some other notable moves, and we'll get to your recommendations, Brett. Greg, your thoughts on Trevor Lewis, kind of a journeyman,
Well, I'm hopeful that he'll add something to that fourth line, because he adds some flexibility, because when he was playing for Daryl Sutter with the Kings, he was centering the fourth line, but from what I've been reading, he is in recent years, he has been playing more in the wing than center. Like I read one thing on Twitter last week saying that he took in all of last season for Winnipeg, he took 9 faceoffs or something. So he was primarily playing as a winger for Winnipeg. So it kind of gives them a bit of flexibility. They can play him as a center or a winger, and I don't mind the move, but it to me it kind of smacks of what they did last year when they got Dominic, Simone for 1 year, 700,000, or, all of those trio of guys that they kind of bottom 6 guys that they got, that none of them worked out and none of them are back. So whether it was Josh Levo or it was Nordstrom, they never, so this kind of, to me is a similar type move. And I'm hoping that there's more success with Trevor Lewis, and there could be, because I think he's a decent player still, and these 1 year low money bargains, they can really work out at times. So I'm hoping that this will work out a lot better than those 3 guys who they tried last year on a similar similar tact. So.
Well, it's only Brett Ritchie that really came back, right? Of all those year deals. Yeah.
Yeah, and he was a PTO as well. He wasn't even like they signed him after training camp. So we'll see.
Yeah.
Like Brett Ritchie could be on a line with this guy, and or could be kind of coming in and out of the lineup. Is he better than Brett Ritchie? I don't know. I think they're pretty comparable players. So.
Well, actually, let's shift gears then and talk about the ones that got away, so to speak. I mean, Brett, you wrote a good article. Flames should target these free agents this offseason. You put your general manager's hat on, and you were recommending Derek Ryan. He got away to Edmonton. Josh Levo left for Carolina. Pius Sutter. He's in Detroit. Jake McCabe, Chicago, Alexander Edler, Ryan Murray, Michael Stone, Zach Rinaldo, Buddy Robinson. All those guys left or were not acquired. Brett, were you surprised by any of that? I'm thinking you were surprised by Ryan, him going to Edmonton.
Yeah, definitely a little bit. It sounded like it was between Calgary, Edmonton, and Toronto, I believe. He was deciding on there in the final few minutes. But Ryan's a guy I would have liked to have seen come back for sure. A guy like Josh Levo, I think he could have done well, but I think the trade for Tyler Pitlick is kind of the same. You get the same type of player, just like a third, fourth line guy who can play in those smaller roles. So I think that's kind of a wash there. And just mostly kind of just spitballing ideas to fill the holes that they had. So, but I would like to say that I did put out Blake Coleman there right before they signed.
You did.
So I'll take that one win there.
One win. Yeah. They did take Coleman. You're right, Brett. Didn't give you your due on that one.
Yeah.
But, Greg, your thoughts? Any surprises on that list of people they either didn't get or left the organization?
I would have. I'm kind of with Brett. I would have liked to seen them give Josh Levo another chance. Like he didn't. He kind of picked up his game in the second half of the year, and I think in that first half of the season he was. I think maybe kind of still slowed down from an injury that he had faced. That kind of he had missed a lot of time. So I thought he was kind of getting into a groove with. And scored all his goals in that second half. And so I thought maybe he was worth a second look, and you probably could have got him back for, pretty cheap as well. And it's funny, you had mentioned Michael Stone, and he still hasn't signed anywhere. And, he's kind of a guy, he's kind of like a bad penny. Like he keeps on turning up. And I have a funny feeling, if the Flames don't get another defenseman signed in the next little while, we could see Michael Stone back again on another 1 year, possibly league minimum contract. And I was kind of a guy who was saying, we don't need this guy anymore. He's been kind of around every year and he's getting up there. And but last year he was very solid. He started in the AHL and then he played a lot of games for the Flames that second half. And I was pretty impressed with his third pairing play. So like I wouldn't mind if the Flames got Michael Stone back again. Like currently that third pairing. There's they need someone to fill out that slot or even be the seventh defenseman. So I wouldn't mind seeing him back. And Zach Rinaldo is someone who was not signed, but he's still out there. But I don't really know if you really need this. He's kind of a tough guy who you kind of insert in your lineup when you need more grit once in a while. But I think maybe the Flames have gotten a bit more grittier with some of their off-season signings. So maybe he's someone who we don't really need to see him back in the Flames lineup for this coming season.
All right, fans, you heard it here first. Mr. Tysowski goes out on a limb and predicts Stone back in a flaming sea. So we'll take that up, Greg, later on. But speaking of defense, there was a one addition to the blue line thus far, the only one, and that's Nikita Zadorov from Chicago. And they gave up a third-round pick next year for him. But he's a massive guy, 6'6", 235-pound blue liner with a reputation, I understand, for big hits. Your thoughts on that acquisition, Brett? Does that excite you at all, or?
Yeah, I think it does. I hated him in that series against Colorado there a few years ago because he's big, mean, and nasty, and he hasn't moved the needle a ton on the offense, but he's a pretty good defensive defenseman. So kind of a Chris Tanev as well, just a little bit younger. So it doesn't quite replace Mark Giordano because Giordano had the offense to go with the defense, but I think it's definitely a good start because he's in his mid-20s. So your decor gets a little bit younger with that move. So for right now, I like it.
Yeah. Greg, any thoughts? So what are your thoughts on Zadorov and who would you pair him with? That's a good point, Brett raised.
Yeah. Well, it's funny. I saw some kind of YouTube clips on him. It's like some of the biggest hits he's ever had. And he can really lay the body at times. So I'm kind of excited to have another kind of a big physical presence back there because we haven't really had a big bruiser on the D line really, in a long time. And so that kind of excites me that maybe some opposing forwards might think twice about entering the zone a certain way because this guy might send them flying. So I like it, and I agree with Brett. It's not it's not a replacement for Mark Giordano, but he will be a top four as I see it right now. Because I think as the pairings go, you really can't mess with the Noah Hanifin, Chris Tanev pairing because they were like the best D pairing in the league for a while. Actually, in the first half of the season, they were really, really good. And then and Anderson, I think, has to be paired with Zadorov, I guess, because that's your second pairing. And maybe Anderson will benefit from a more defensively minded kind of guy like Noah Hanifin did with Tanev. So I think they're hoping to kind of recreate that kind of chemistry with because obviously Anderson has a bit more offensive flair, so he can be more of a puck mover and take some chances, and they have the big Zadorov to kind of back him up at times. So I think there's your top four, unless the Flames aren't done with their signings and the free agent or anything like that. So I think it's a third pairing that I have no idea what's going to happen because I think there's a slot open. I think you have Valimaki, and who he's going to play with, that is to be determined at this point. So yeah, but their defense as a whole, with the loss of Giordano, is not as good as it was last year. So they definitely need to get someone in that third pairing who is solid and can play with Valimaki. So,
well, let me put you on the spot then. You were thinking maybe Stone comes back, but they do need another D, as you alluded to.
Yeah.
And so are there prospects that you think could crack the lineup? And I'm thinking here of Poolman, Shillington, or Mackey. What are your thoughts on those three? Or one of the three anyway, cracking the lineup?
Well, we keep hoping that Shillington is going to become something. Like he's been in the organization for a few years now, and a couple seasons ago he actually played a significant amount of games for the Flames. But the last year he took a big step back and only played, I believe, like 6 games or 8 games. It was a small amount, and so I don't really know if he is someone who the Flames coaches and management really see is going forward. And like Mackey actually might be more of a fit because he did get called up for a bit, and he played in the World Championships. He's pretty solid. So it's like if I was to pick someone who might within the system maybe make the team, it might be Mackey. And so that's he'd be my guy. And I still think someone like Stone, you need like a 7th defenseman for injuries and whatnot. And so I still think you need a solid veteran kind of to be maybe the 7th guy. But I think Shillington, I don't know. I really don't. I've always liked his offensive upside, but for some reason he's kind of been pushed down the depth chart here in Calgary.
Yeah. Brett, what are your thoughts on any one of those three? Could they crack the lineup, given the need for at least one more defenseman?
Yeah, I think it's interesting because, as Greg noted, Shillington only played 8 games. So you have to wonder if he just wasn't good enough to get into the lineup. It's how the coaches saw it or what kind of went on this season. But I think I'd like to see, Shillington and Mackey kind of, battle for that spot. I think there's definitely a very good chance Michael Stone comes in as that 7th defenseman, but Connor Mackey had a very good first year of pro hockey with the Heat there. So I think it would be nice to see Valimaki playing beside Shillington and Connor Mackey, get a third pairing of young guys and see what you got there. And, instead of signing the 35-year-old veteran who is basically on the downswing of his career and near the end, it'd be nice to, see Shillington get into those games again where playing upwards of 40 or 50 games and seeing what Connor Mackey can do as well.
Right. I just want to briefly touch on goal because there was an acquisition there. Get your thoughts on this, Brett. I'm basing this on an article you wrote. You identified David Riddick and Yaroslav Halak as two UFA goalies that the Flames should pursue. They both escaped Calgary's grasp. But they did end up with Daniel Vladar from Boston in return for a third-round pick in 2022. He's only got a few NHL games under his belt, but he has credible stats in the AHL. Do you think, Brett, he could become Markstrom's backup here? Or
well, as it stands right now on the depth chart, he definitely is Markstrom's backup. I like this move way more than the idea of bringing back Riddick or Halak, because Halak's 35 or 36 and getting up there, but he's been good. And I know Riddick, it sounded like, wanted to find a spot to contend for the starter's position, but I didn't really know where that was going to be. So I kind of thought, well, maybe he will decide to come back, but then he ended up in Nashville, I believe. But yeah, I like this move way more. Vladar's 23 years old and great record in the AHL so far, including his, good save percentage, well over 9-10, I believe. So it's interesting. I think he's, and looking at his NHL stats, he had one terrible game of like a 600 or 700 save percentage, which kind of blows up his overall career stats, because the other games he was well over a 900 save percentage. So I think he's a guy to watch for sure, who I think will, contend for that backup job. I know they signed another AHL guy who's around the same age, in Adam Werner.
Adam Werner, yeah.
I believe. Yeah, and so it sounds like those two will be kind of in contention for that backup spot, it seems. So I like the fact that they went really young here for the backup job. It kind of makes sense with the way Markstrom's coming towards the end of his career on this contract that has 5 years left. So I think this was a very smart move by them.
Yeah. Greg, your thoughts? Anyone else in the goalie pipeline that may be able to challenge Vladar for the backup spot?
No, I think the guys, the two that Brett was just talking about heading into training camp will be the guys. And, it's, I think what this says, though, with having these young guys, these inexperienced AHL guys, is that the Flames are not looking for like a tandem. They're not looking for a 1A, 1B kind of situation, because they played Markstrom a lot last year. They rode him hard. And to me, this indicates that they're going to do it again. They're going to ride him as much as they can, because I don't think they'll be giving Vladar, or maybe it's Vladar. And I'm not even sure how to say it actually, but I'm not sure they're going to give him like 30 games or something crazy like that. So I'm thinking this says that Markstrom's going to be the guy and going to do a lion's share of the starts. So I think whoever gets that backup job out of training camp is going to be kind of eased into it, and it's going to be not playing as much. Like I remember David Riddick wasn't very happy last year because he wasn't playing very much. Like he was he's a guy who was kind of their pseudo starter on and off for the last few seasons, and he found himself hardly playing. And so I don't think so they have these young guys that probably can't really complain too much, because it's really their first crack at being like an NHL roster player and being a backup goalie. So I like the move, but it also says to me that we're probably going to see a lot of Markstrom this coming season.
Right. So I think the sentiment was at the start of the show that the problem with the Flames is they're kind of always betwixt and between. They're not rebuilding, but then they don't go on far enough to have a contender. So, let's step back here and taking a look at what they've done so far. Is the team improved? Have we got any reason to have any more hope that they'll be more of a contender this year than they were last year, or frankly, the last several years? Have they done enough? Do they need to do more? Brett, sum it up for us in your view.
I'm still the firm believer that they have to make that big splash in order to be serious. I think that, it would be nice to see them make a move for like a Jack Eichel. I'm not sure it's in the cards for them, but I think that's kind of the splash they have to make. Like, yes, signing Blake Coleman is good. He'll add, but there's a lot of factors. Again, can guys bounce back? Can Tkachuk come back this season? Can Monahan really have a comeback season? And so unless they make a huge splash for kind of a game-breaking player and predominantly a center, I kind of think that yes, they'll probably contend for the playoffs, but I wouldn't be shocked to see them fizzle out too in kind of the middle of March.
Yeah. Greg, your take on that? Have they done enough to make anything different for them? I kind of get the feeling that Brad Treliving is hoping that adding one or two little pieces will be just the right combination and everything will kind of just fall into place, magically, because this core hasn't changed in a lot of years and they keep doing these tinkerings here and there. And this is another example of that. Like Blake Coleman, I like the signings actually. I was happy to see it, and I think he'll add something, but it's not the big game breaker that Brett's talking about, that the Jack Eichel type, like a big, like a big star, like an NHL star. So it's like we're counting on a lot of bounce backs. We're counting on Monahan to become kind of the player they used to be, and we're counting on Tkachuk to be like another dominant force like he was a couple of years ago. And if not everything falls into place perfectly, then yes, they'll be kind of on that bubble team that might be fighting for that final spot or a wild card spot. So for Flames fans who have been clamoring and been wanting the Flames to do something big and to kind of make a big splash, this offseason has to be considered disappointing, But if you're one of the Flames fans who thinks, this is a decent team and maybe they add some pieces and they'll be able to, get back, to one of the top teams. Let's not forget that it wasn't that long ago that the Flames were tied for the second best record in the NHL in regular season. Sure, they flamed out in 5 games to the Avalanche, but it wasn't that long ago when they had one of the best records with this core group. So it's not impossible. And I think that's what the GM keeps thinking is going to happen. Like he can just kind of tinker a bit and maybe they'll all come together again like that season. So, yeah. But no, they haven't done enough in my view. And I'm hoping they do more, but you're right about this, Paul. There's not a lot left out there. And if they don't cash in on the Jack Eichel sweepstakes, then I think the line that we see right now is probably going to be close to what's going to drop the puck in September when the season starts. All right. You guys have mentioned Jack Eichel 2 or 3 times here. It would be nothing short of journalistic malpractice if we didn't discuss him. My view of him is he's risky. He's got a very serious neck injury. He may never be the player he once was. Buffalo reportedly wants a lot for him. I've heard 2 NHL players, 2 top prospects, and or some first round picks, huge cap hit, $10 million per year. Many teams right now are reported to be walking away from the Eichel sweepstakes. Guys, what are your thoughts? Should the Flames be trying to acquire him? And given his health status, Brett, I know you're a fan of a big move, but given all of that, where would you come down on this thing?
Yeah, well, it sounds like, just the unknown factor is that this procedure has never been done on an NHL player, so they just don't know. But, his agents put out a statement last week and said he can be healthy for preseason. So I think that's pretty encouraging. Like, it's yeah, necks are scary to work on, but I think if he gets it done, it's not like he's going to completely lose his ability to play in the NHL, and in my opinion, but you never know. There's that unknown. But yeah, I think if there's a guy like that available, you have to be, kind of see what that price is. Now, in saying that, I think if it's somebody like Kachuk or Mangiapane going the other way, that's something I think where the Flames maybe walk away, because I think adding Eichel to this team is where you can add him to that, top six without kind of busting it up to bring him in, because then you're just kind of back at square one, sort of one step forward, two steps back kind of mentality. If you have to give up too much, then there's some holes there again. But yeah, I think if they can do it for, picks, prospects, maybe kind of work that way and fit it under the cap, then absolutely, I think you got to go for it, because I think that's a guy who will put them at least over the hump and for sure a lock for the playoffs.
Yeah, Greg, what are your thoughts? Would you roll the dice here if it were your decision to make and bring him in?
Well, I think the good news for the Flames is that the longer this drags out, it benefits the teams who are kind of still in the running here, because Jack Eichel's agent was complaining that it was taking way too long. And then Buffalo was saying, oh, we're in no rush, But the fact that there's no deal that's been done, I think tells me that the price has been a bit too high, So it's like, if the Flames were to give up a couple of roster players, but, like instead of being like one of their top six forwards, their core group, but if they give up like a Dubé or Valimaki or something, good players, that might be great players down the line, but, those two are not a lock to be like, stars in this league. Or so like I would be willing to give up a couple of young guys. And then as for the picks, like people saying, oh, they have to be like first rounders and stuff. I think no risk, no reward. I think people who have been clamoring for the Flames to do something big, this is right on the plate. And if you can get past the risk factor of his neck injury, I think it'd be very exciting if they could pull this off. But I also don't know what the chances are. I don't know what other teams have on their plate, what other picks they have to offer, as opposed to the Flames. So I think it would be fun for them to take a swing at something, because they haven't really done that for a long time, if ever, really, to go after a big fish like this. And I agree with Brett. I think with him in your lineup, if he's healthy, can be a game changer. Like he's an actual elite first line center, which by all accounts the Flames haven't had since Joe Nieuwendyk, which most people consider to be the last time we had a big time center. And so, I'd like to see it just to shake things up too, because like I for one, I'm getting kind of tired of this year after year, just middling tinkering, it's hoping that things will get better. But this would be a big splash, and I don't know what the odds of them succeeding, but I'd like to see them try.
Well, we are going to see very, very soon. So thank you, gentlemen. Unfortunately, we've run out of time here, but that was a great discussion. And thank you for joining us, everybody, for this edition of the Flames Face-Off. And we'll be back in 2 weeks' time. But in the meantime, to make sure you don't miss an edition, please subscribe to the YouTube channel and give us a couple likes on Facebook and YouTube if you get the chance, and share this with your friends. Don't forget about the podcast format in which we now are available, and do check out all the great hockey content that we have here at thehockeywriters.com. Until next time, take care.